Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Calculus. I am your host, Anil Padmanabhan. India is building big. It's rolling out airports, highways, tunnels, bridges, ports like never before. Many of them are big ticket projects. In a way, this is a concrete expression of its economic ambitions. While we celebrate are the marvels like the Arch Bridge over the river Chenab in Kashmir, we also need to start worrying about the cracks that are visible in the foundation. Whether it is about collapsed bridges or newly road uh, being washed away by the first rains, there is a pattern. And this goes beyond the usual challenge of corruption, compromised contractors, and tight deadlines. It actually focuses on the classroom that schools the civil engineers in this country. The basic truth, an uncomfortable one at that, is that India is not producing sufficient quality civil engineers at the moment. This begs the question whether the education system schooling civil engineers in this country is out of whack with India's audacious infrastructure ambitions. To answer this and more, we have with us today Professor Benny Raphael. He's the head of civil engineering at IIT Madras. Welcome, Professor Benny.
Thank you.
See, Professor Benny, India's ongoing infrastructure drive is historic in both scale and speed. For instance, we are building roads at something like 34 kilometers a day. In 2014, it was 12 kilometers. And last week, the Surface Transport Minister said that he's going to bump this up to 100 kilometers a day. But, with every bridge collapse and road failure, the question gets louder. Are we building too fast, or are we simply not equipped sufficiently to build this kind of scale infrastructure?
Yeah, it's a very valid question. But before we jump into conclusion about the causes of these accidents, we need to do a thorough analysis of what actually went wrong in each and every case. So it could many things can go wrong, right from mistakes in the design, mistakes in the construction procedure, or just human errors, and probably due to the effect of some unforeseen environmental effects. So each case is different. Unless we analyze each and every case, we cannot really pinpoint it to the human factors like uneducated, untrained workforce and things like that. So I'll be a bit cautious before I jump into some conclusion like this. But your concern is very valid. We need a lot more manpower than we are producing, quality manpower, which is essential for taking up this type of large scale infrastructure projects.
Oh, totally fair enough. I agree with you, Professor Benny. I was not trying to pin the entire blame on the craft of civil engineering. That is a very critical part of the causes. That I just wanted to put the spotlight on that, and I'll take up from where you said that India needs to generate that quality manpower to, roll out and scale these projects. But just for our audience's clarification, the point about civil engineering is that yes, the project execution is almost entirely in their hands, right? Beginning from design to the final brick that is laid. So, in a way, they are responsible for the project in its design, construction, and rollout, right?
Yeah, the in a way that is true, but it's not just civil engineers. There are many stakeholders involved, right from architects. I don't know whether you consider architects also as engineers, but is a separate profession. So some of the design flaws might originate even in the architectural design stage itself. Then, of course, we have the structural design, geotechnical engineering design. So we have a number of design engineers who are involved in the project. Then we have the at the execution stage. It may not always be civil engineers. These are typically construction project managers. They might typically be civil engineers, but it could be people without firm the engineering background also is possible. And then we have the actual contractors who do the execution. Many of them are not even engineers. They have a lot of experience in building, but they are just contractors. They know how to construct, but they may not understand all the critical aspects of the design. So there are many parties that are involved. And then there are the environmental factors which affect many of these incidents. For example, there is a heavy, unexpected heavy rain or wind, and the tower crane is erected, and there's not enough time to put it in a safe position. So these are unexpected factors. Need not. Of course, you can if you have enough data, you can plan the work such that you don't end up in a situation of working when there is this heavy wind. But there are these environmental factors, and you also mentioned about this the things getting foundation getting washed away. These are probably due to some once in a 100-year event which happens. We are aware that these things could happen, but we may not always be able to completely mitigate this type of hazards because it becomes extremely expensive to look for each and every possibility. But then there are these unexpected events that happen once in a while, very because freak accidents that happen. Just something happened because it just happened that way. So there are these. Of course, there are human errors, some mistakes in operating the machinery and not following the procedures properly. Again, it could be because of training, but it could also be because of fatigue, overdoing, making them work too long, so they are not able to concentrate. And so there are many factors that are involved in these type of accidents, and some of them you correctly said might be traced back to training. Especially we safety training is something which is not given that much attention even in the undergraduate or postgraduate curriculum. That safety culture is something we just take for granted. We are not very much interested in improving the safety because it costs money. It costs money in terms of the actions you take. It takes money in terms of training the people. So we just do the bare minimum that is mandatory, and we get people to work. And so safety is something we need to pay a lot of attention to. But I don't put this blame on the education, because we do a 4-year undergraduate civil engineering program. Now civil engineering has expanded quite considerably compared to some 20-30 years ago. It's impossible to learn everything about civil engineering in 4 years. Even for doing a structural design, it's impossible to do it after an undergraduate degree. You need to have a postgraduate degree to be able to do structural design. If you also expect the students to be aware of all the operational aspect, the safety aspects, if you include all that, our curriculum is going to be overwhelmed. So the right approach would be to have civil engineers with basic skills, with basic knowledge, and when they join these construction companies, they should be given additional on-the-job training or continuing education. We also run a lot of the continuing education programs for practicing engineers. So they could take this. So depending on the requirement, they can take specialist courses and improve. So I wouldn't put that much blame on the education itself. But definitely we need quality people who can learn lifelong and who are willing to learn, who can accept the challenges of learning while working. So but once we have that kind of people, I think we can train them to do well.
Thanks, Professor. See, the thing is that there are some things in our control and some beyond our control. I would put even corruption beyond our control. It's a political issue and has to be resolved electorally. There's nothing, any diligent civil engineer can do about it. But I wanted to focus on civil engineering aspect because there is a concern that quality, I'll just come to it, but there's also quantity problem. Are we generating sufficient quantity of civil engineers in the country commensurate to this, very ambitious infrastructure uh, targets that we have in mind? That's my question.
But my answer is based on what I hear from newspaper reports and from the speeches of chairman of big companies like L&T. So there is definitely a manpower crunch in terms of skilled engineers. I've heard multiple people speaking about it. So that is definitely there. What has happened over the years is when the IT and the finance industry became very lucrative, a lot of students went into those fields. So we were not producing enough number of quality civil engineers. And you might know that many colleges in India, especially private colleges, have shut down the civil engineering department. Not just civil engineering, the core engineering, because there is not it's not attractive to students because it doesn't pay as well as the other sectors. So over the years, we have very few civil engineering graduates coming out, and the demand is increasing, as you said. The number of infrastructure projects, all that. So we are definitely going to face a crunch. Now, I heard this year the trend has reversed, and there is more demand for core engineering. More people are opting for core engineering. So maybe it is a turnaround time. And in the industry, we always see these cycles. You see that it goes down, demand goes down, then it's not able to meet the supply. Then it goes up again. So these cycles are definitely there. So probably we are going through that cycle right now. Now it is going to pick up because demand is definitely there, and the industry is also going to realize that unless we pay civil engineers almost at least competitive to the other sector, we are not able to get people. It's a question of demand and supply, right? So the salaries are going to increase, at least for the important the jobs, engineering jobs, which require skill. So that salary is going to go up, and we saw that in the placements in the last year. It is now for a job of a construction manager is almost place almost as good as a starting IT professional. So we saw that last year. So we're seeing that people are realizing we need quality people in these sectors, and they are willing to pay to get these people. So once this happens, it will attract more students into these core disciplines, and I think we will see some change. So what you said is true. We are facing a crunch, but I'm saying it is part of the cycle. It will pick up, and there will be some consequences for a short duration because of this crunch. But eventually, market forces will determine what's going to happen.
That's probably true because IT is also peaking out in a way. From whatever we see, the big four in India are not growing at the pace that they used to. So I suspect that blowback is also helping the cause of civil engineering because here demand is peaking, right? I mean, what do you see? Do you see approach from the industry, government? Are they reaching out to you? And also, I just want to go back on the point you made that in the last few years, several civil engineering departments have been shut down probably outside of the premier institutions like IIT.
At IIT, we always get the our civil engineering courses are always in demand. Just a closing rank changes a little bit, but we never end up not filling the seats. So civil engineering is always taken because any degree from IIT is considered to be valuable. So people will anyway join civil engineering even if it is not their first choice. But many private colleges have shut down the civil engineering department because the fees you pay is so high, and people are not sure whether they get a job which will help them pay back whatever, even if they take a loan or even if it's on money. The after the graduation they should be able to recover the money spent on education, right? People are not very convinced about it. That's why the people are not choosing civil engineering in other private colleges. But once the word spreads, it always spreads a bit slower than what is needed. So now I think the word is spreading. So now you see more demand. So I think they will start the civil engineering programs once again in these colleges.
So that's right. There's probably a lag. I just want to ask you, since the head of Department of Civil Engineering at IIT Madras, I'm curious on the syllabus. So, firstly, how reflective is it of the contemporary infrastructure scenario in India right now? I mean, say even 2 decades ago, the we weren't conceiving and executing the projects at this scale. I cited the example of roads in my introduction. So, your syllabus is contemporary in the sense, given this new reality about India's infrastructure.
Yeah, so we just last year we revamped the undergraduate curriculum, this BTech curriculum, and about 5 years ago we had another revision of the curriculum. But uh, the revision was not really geared towards meeting the demands of the industry in terms of these high valued infrastructure projects, but based on one recognition that everybody is not going into those who are taking civil engineering is not definitely going to construction per se. But we want people with different set of skills. They take up different roles. There are people who might go into core design jobs. There are people who want to be just managers. There are people who want to be generalists, people who want to be academicians. So we see that there are different career pathways possible for our undergraduate students. And if you force them, no, you should do only civil engineering, core civil engineering, everybody should do structural design, it's just not going to work, because people are just not interested in these things, because they came not because it's their first choice, but because they want a degree from IIT. But what we want to do is prepare them with some basic knowledge of civil engineering, basic knowledge of engineering, some basic engineering skills which will help them in whatever job they do. So recently there has been a lot of demand for construction managers and property managers. So this is a kind of area where you don't need in-depth knowledge of structural design and those type of specialist subject where we used to put a lot of emphasis on until recently. But they need to have certain knowledge of civil engineering. They need to know about construction, but they need a lot more. You need interpersonal skills. You need a lot of soft skills. So these are the kind of jobs that are getting paid more. Almost equivalent to the other sectors. So what we decided was, we realized that after doing an undergraduate degree, you cannot do this type of infrastructure project, which requires a lot of expert knowledge, but prepare them with sufficient skills so that if they want to go into that path, they can take MTech or the other the higher studies, and they can pick up the skills. So we are the curriculum has been revised, taking into consideration that there are people with different career pathways, and we streamline it. We have more electives. So that is one development that has taken place. The other thing is we realize that in the past we used to spare the yeah we used to emphasize a lot on design and construction, assuming that it is the traditional construction process. But now lot of changes are taking place. Now construction is also getting very high tech when it comes to these infrastructure projects. You see very high end machinery being used in launching girders, automated cranes, and so on. So we need people who can work with that type of system. So it's not the traditional engineering that is becoming important, but more the computational skills. Making use of computers and computation systems for doing engineering. So we need people with a lot more the skills in computing, whether it is modeling, visualization, planning, whatever. We need people with computational. So we have put in a lot of emphasis on computational methods in our new curriculum. So we don't emphasize that much on doing calculation and hand calculation for design. We make use of software to do the design calculation, but people should understand the basics. So there has been a lot of emphasis. So curriculum revision is meant to modernize the civil engineering discipline itself. So in a way, we interact very strongly with the industry. We know the demands of the industry. We know what the industry wants. So we keep this in mind when we revise the curriculum. But we also look at the aspirations of people who are going through our program. So that's what we have done with our curriculum.
I'm curious, this proactive approach that you have adopted at IIT Madras, do you see this playing out in lesser institutions, engineering institutions across the country?
I think a lot of people are looking to IIT to get ideas. So when they realize that we are changing the curriculum, when our credit system and all that, we are making some changes, and the word is spreading, and others are also imitating what IIT is doing. But that is also a danger, because we designed our curriculum looking at the profile of students who are joining IIT. Is not the same type of people who might be joining other colleges. So we see a lot of people coming to IIT computationally savvy, and if you make other colleges also go through the same kind of curriculum, probably it may not work so well. It has to, we have demand for really this cutting edge kind of engineering and the traditional engineering. There has to be a balance between both. So everybody should not just imitate IIT. We still need the traditional civil engineers. And if these students are going to the right gate for higher studies, there is a gate syllabus which is still very traditional. So everybody should not just look at. We decided, okay, there are different types of students who are. Some of them might write GATE and go into traditional, so they have their electives they can take to get proficient in these subjects. But there are a lot of others who might just do very computational work, modeling, visualization, all that. For them, the some of the traditional engineering may not be that important. So, in a way, the people should look at what IIT is doing, but they should not just blindly imitate what IIT is doing.
Professor, I'm curious, what is the proportion of civil engineering students graduating from each batch at IIT?
This is currently we have 130 seats, undergraduate seats in civil engineering. It is it is almost the same as other, the core engineering disciplines. Now, now there is a talk that there is more demand for computer science, and there's a talk to increase the seats in they in branches which are high in demand. But this is institute wide. There is there has been some decision on the allocation of seats, and we have maintained that. So this has increased significantly. About 20 years ago, we were just about the 40 in a batch in civil engineering, and later gradually it increased to about 130 right now.
Okay, but in proportion of the overall engineering graduates?
And we take about yeah, probably about some 1,200. So we have about 14 departments. So roughly it comes to about 1/10 of the total intake.
Okay. And I presume this will be the standard across most engineering institutes, the premier ones.
I'm not very sure, but I expect it would be almost, the older IIT should have probably about the same ratio.
Okay. I wanted to, go back to a point you made about how you take a lot of feedback from industry when you are framing a syllabus, when you are the kind of training you impart in your courses. So this is a new phenomenon in India, the academic industrial government complex that we are seeing. And IIT Madras, coincidentally, is an excellent laboratory for this. I've seen personally, the brain center and then your startups, whatever they're doing. Some of them are world class. So, does this also help the cause of civil engineering?
So for as far as undergraduate program is concerned, it is not so much industry driven, but all our MTech courses are very much industry driven. Actually, many of the companies come to us, and we need the specialist MTech or some certification course in these areas. And recently, one of the bigger companies, they came to us, gave us a list of some 20 different streams in which they wanted an MTech program to be started. Of course, we cannot start 20 MTech programs, but we took that information, and we saw that many of the subjects they wanted to be taught in these programs are already existing in different forms in IIT. So we told them, we can create a custom, we call the user-oriented program. We can create these user-oriented programs tailored to the industry. So we get a lot of these requests from the industry. Even if we don't go out and seek opinion, they come and tell us, this is what we want. That is because we have some 30 the 40 years of the close collaboration with all the big construction companies, and so they always come to IIT for various things, whether it is for the specialist advice on technical topics, or for the training. They always come to IIT, so we have a close collaboration with them. So we get a lot of feedback and a lot of opinion from them.
That's a good note to sign off on, a note of optimism. Thank you, Professor Benny, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, you heard Professor Benny. He acknowledges that there is a problem in India's big infra projects. It is a challenge that is being compounded by a shrinking pool of talent. The good news is that premier institutes like IIT Madras are seized of the problem, and even better, that they are working with industry, which is the primary source of demand, and government to create and retool the next generation of civil engineers. India's economic ambition to become a developed economy by 2047 rests to a large degree on its ability to roll out world class infrastructure projects. Remember, to have world class infrastructure, you need world class engineers. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to StratNewsGlobal.Tech on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. And please do share your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions with us. I'm available on X at Capital Calculus. I'll be back next week with another episode. Till then, stay safe.